Hey everyone, this is Kevin from WP Codis. Today I'm going to show you how to migrate your sermons from an existing sermon plugin over to advanced sermons. For this demo, we're going to be migrating from Sermon Manager. To do this, we're going to use a free plugin on the WordPress repository called WP Import Export Lite. You can see that I already have this plugin installed and activated. If you don't, navigate to Plugins and hit Add New Plugin. From here, we can just search for the plugin name and hit Install and Activated. The next step is we need to install a function into our child themes function.php. Note, this step is only required for Sermon Manager if you are using the sermon date field created by that plugin. If your sermon plugin uses the post date, which is pretty common for most plugins similar to advanced sermons, you can simply skip this step. If you don't have a child theme installed on your WordPress installation, you can also use a plugin called Code Snippet, which allows you to add functions through this plugin instead of a child theme in your functions.php file. For this case, we're going to use a child theme, so we're going to go to Appearance, Theme File Editor, and select our functions.php file. As you can see, I already have this function installed on our install. However, you can copy these function from the Import Sermons documentation and paste it here. Now we're ready to begin the export process of our existing sermons from Sermon Manager. To do this, we're going to go to WP Import Export, select New Export, and then simply select the post type sermons. If you do have advanced sermons already installed, there's going to be two advanced sermons or sermon post types displayed here. I recommend just temporarily deactivating advanced sermons so it only displays the single post type. That way there's no confusion of exporting the wrong data. Next, we're going to select Choose Field. And we're just going to add all fields associated to this post type. So again, because we're not using the post date, but we're using sermon date, we need to modify this one single custom fields for Sermon Manager in order to have that formatted properly for the import process. So we're going to begin this by hitting the pencil tool, export the value returned by a PHP function. And we're simply just going to paste in our function name that we added to the function.php file or the code snippet plugin and hit save. That's all you have to do for the fields for now. We're going to navigate to advanced options and make sure CSV is selected. Next, let's just preview this to make sure all of our data is correct. So again, if you were using the post date, the data would be saved here. However, with Sermon Manager, it has its own separate value of sermon date, which you can see is displayed in the proper format of date and hours. Next, we're just going to hit export and download our export. For our demo, we're only using 2 sermons. However, it'll list all of these sermons that you're exporting and we'll use in the import process here. We have our CSV downloaded. We can go to plugins and temporarily disable our existing sermon plugin. Again, the reason why we're doing this is we just don't want to have 2 sermon post types on our install to confuse us during the import export process. Note, by deactivating your sermon plugin, this does not remove the data. We're simply just deactivating the plugin. Next, let's activate Advanced Sermons and Advanced Sermons Pro. We do recommend that you have Advanced Sermons installed and activated in your WordPress install before we begin the import process. Some fields like Facebook, audio embeds, and video embeds, along with bulletins and scripture, are only available in Advanced Sermons Pro, so it is required to map that data. Next, because Sermon Manager does have a taxonomy called service type, if you are using that, please navigate to Settings, Extensions, and make sure service type isn't enabled from this extension list. If you don't see extensions under your general settings of advanced sermons, this simply means that you're just using a version less than 4.0 on your WordPress install. To do this, you just go to our website, go to add-ons, and download the service type add-on. Once that's installed and activated in your WordPress install, you're good to go. Your service type add-on will be listed over here on the left-hand side. Next, we can begin the import process. We're going to hover over WP Import Export, select New Import, and simply just drag our CSV that we had downloaded in. Go to Step 2, select our post type sermon, and keep the setting the same and continue to Step 3. Step 3 actually doesn't have any information that we need to change, so we can skip that and go to Step 4. And from here, here's where begins the mapping process. So on the right-hand side is all the information from our CSV. We can navigate over through our multiple sermons. Again, we just have 2 for this example, and we simply just need to match these fields over to the fields for advanced sermons. So to begin, we're going to drag our title field over to post title. Same with content and our sermon short description. Next, we're going to upload our featured image. This is actually saved under image URL. So drag this here, keep these boxes the same, and go to custom fields. From here, we're going to map the custom fields like our video embeds, scriptures, and so on. And we're just going to go down the list here and start with Bible passage and paste this under value. Now we need to assign the name for advanced sermons over to our value from our old sermon plugin. Again, this process is similar for all other WordPress plugins. For this case, your IDs and labels would just be different. However, just drag it under values and you can assign it to the proper ID for advanced sermons. So for this, we're going to reference over for our documentation, and we are going to find sermon bulletin. Actually, no, we did Bible passage. We will find sermon Bible passage, copy that name, and paste it here. Next, we're just going to go down the list. Looks like sermon audio is next. So we're going to find audio URL, copy the name, and paste. And next, we're going to do sermon bulletin. As you can see, Sermon Manager does have a bulletin multiple. Please skip this as Advanced Sermons doesn't support multiple bulletins at once. So you will have to use the sermon bulletin field here. Hopefully we can expand upon this in the future. However, again, we can only upload one sermon bulletin and one sermon note with Advanced Sermons. So now that we have the sermon bulletin value, we want to select sermon bulletin name, paste, and do the same process with sermon notes. In our case, it's PDF because you can use it for other things other than notes as well. And going down the list, it looks like video embed is the next option. So if you aren't using video embed, you can skip this process. However, in our case, we are going to import both video embeds and sermon YouTube videos. And then the next is sermon link, video link. Because we have a YouTube field, we're going to select YouTube. If you're using Vimeo or Facebook, make sure to select those instead of YouTube and paste it next to the sermon video link. And those are all the fields that we need to map for custom fields from Sermon Manager. Next, we're just going to begin the import process of taxonomies. So we're just going to go down the list here and find Bible book. Actually, I'm going to open this up first, Bible book, and drag it here. And do the process with service type, speaker, topics, and so on. All right, lastly, we are almost done. The next thing we do is just do post date. So because we want to assign it to the existing sermon dates from Sermon Manager, we want to select as specified and then find our sermon date field from the right-hand side and simply drag it over here. Again, if your sermon plugin doesn't have this, you would just find date and drag this as a replacement to that. Next, we're going to leave comments as open. We're going to disable trackback and pings. These are all optional settings. If you want to assign the existing sermon slug over to Advanced Sermons from Sermon Manager, we would drag permalink over here. Just note, in our case, we are using sermon as the archive URL. If this is different on your install, you would just go to Advanced Sermon Settings, General, and you can customize your sermon archive slug here. Note, you can do this after the import process. Just make sure to do that, otherwise it might display a 404 error. Now that we have all this information set, we're just going to go continue to step 5 and just make sure title's selected. And we're going to update all data since we're moving data over from Sermon Manager to Advanced Sermons. Next, hit continue, confirm, and run. So you can see that we have successfully imported 2 of 2 records. So if we go to sermons and all, and you can see renew mindset is here along with all of our speakers, topics, books. If we hit edit on this, the sermon data is here. YouTube is selected. Our video audio file is selected along with scripture, notes, and bulletin. And our featured video or image is also here.